All right, so remember, this is the video series that we're doing, the playlist that you can watch, in the top 10 things people wish they would have known before they got into goats, or things they should have known before they got into goats, and that might have changed their strategy to be more effective in the beginning. So we hope to head you down the right direction. And the second most common one was fencing. Now, the reason people use fencing, and this is fun because there's a saying in goat world, is that a happy goat owner is one with good fencing. Because if you don't have good fencing, then your goats are always getting out, they're walking on your cars, they're eating your shrubberies and bushes, which can be a top way that you kill your goats because a lot of decorative plants are poisonous. So not having good fencing or a good fencing strategy is a nightmare, and knowing how to do it in the beginning is super helpful. Now, first things first, 3-strand barbed wire will not work to keep back a goat at all. They will literally just walk right through it. They don't even act like it's there. So you can't use 3-strand barbed wire. You have to use things like field fencing or horse fencing. Now, this is field fencing, and it has this 2x4 grid right here. And the problem with the 2x4 grid with goats, if you're gonna set your property up right, now just know, field fencing is the one with the 4x2 squares on the bottom and 6x6 part way up. The thing about field fencing, it works great for everybody except babies, and especially if you have horns on your goats. So your goats will put their horns through, and then they won't be able to pull their head back out. And then the only way to deter that is to put a stick across their horns so they can't stick their head through it anymore. It's a total pain in the butt while the little guys are growing up. So field fencing, the advantage of it is it's cheaper. So I've used field fencing in many places because I operate on a budget, and I had 3 miles of fence to contain my 44 acres. And what we did instead is we used field fencing where it was less critical, and we used horse fencing where it was critical. Now, horse fencing, woven horse fencing, is a 2x4 grid, so it's about this big. That is the best by far. In terms of keeping a goat out. The other thing that we use as a combined strategy is we use a lot of stock panels. And the stock panels, we find them on Facebook Marketplace, and they actually make ones for goats where the rails at the bottom are skinnier. Those are the way to go, by a mile. They work awesome. I just can't afford to buy that as much as I need at full cost, so I'm always looking for used, and I'm trying to make it work, and you may relate to that. So sometimes I'm using things that I don't suggest is best, but sometimes we operate on a budget, and what I would say is me too. But the best is 2x4 horse fencing. And the other thing that I recommend, especially if you're gonna run like T-posts and T-post, termination posts, and horse fencing, is that those goats will love to rub down that. And if you have any little nice edibles on the other side of that fence, they'll climb up on that fence and then eat over the top of it and break your fence down. And when they rub down the length of it, they'll sag it out and they'll push those T-posts over. So if you go just with the T-posts and a horse fence model or field fence, no matter how tight you get it, you still need to run a piece of electric fencing on the inside to keep them off of it. And I like 2 strands, one kind of medium, one kind of high, and that'll keep them off that fence and rubbing down it in the spring to itch themselves and basically to shed their underlayer. So that's the fencing piece. Now, remember, I teach people how to raise goats and all the things that they should do and know how to do that. We have a goat club membership, and we have courses on every subject of raising goats you can imagine. They're all under $100. They're not expensive. Go to PackGoats.com, get you a course, get you started, because I will tell you that, again, when surveyed, homesteaders ranked goats the second most difficult to raise. It's not because it's hard, there's just no good resources out there. So get yourself educated, get a course, take a couple hours. It's some videos and some movies and some written content. It's basically like studying the subject of being a goat owner. And in a couple hours, you're gonna know what most people don't know by their 3rd or 2nd year. So it'll be invaluable to you. So I'm Marc Warnke. People call me the Goat Guy. Go ahead and make sure this is the 2nd thing that you should consider. We're gonna roll on to the 3rd thing. So I hope you find that helpful. Marc Warnke signing out.